Hi students, Assalamu alaikum. Today we are here with another lecture of the poem Last Lesson of the Afternoon. In the previous lecture, we discussed first three stanzas. First three stanzas we discussed in the previous lecture. That is stanza 1. Stanza 1 talks about the weariness of the poet. He talks about the mind of the poet. It talks about the uninterestedness of the students, the uninterestedness of the learners. They are not interested in learning anything. And as far as stanza second is concerned, stanza second talks about the works which the students do, that is the homework, the writings, the creative writing. It talks about that the students do not do their work in a proper manner, in the right way. And the teacher who is the speaker of the poem, in first stanza he talks about the students. In the second stanza, so first stanza he talks about the students. In stanza second he talks about their works, he talks about their classworks, their writing, etc. And in stanza third he takes a decision, he takes a decision. So these three stanzas we discussed in the previous class, and today we'll start from stanza 4. Starting with stanza 4, this is stanza 4. I'll start from here. See, I'll not waste my soul and my strength for this. What do I care for all that they do amiss? What is the point of teaching of mine and this learning of theirs? It all goes down the same abyss. This is stanza 4. We completed stanza three stanzas, and I already told you that first stanza talks about the behavior of students. It talks about the students. Second, their works, their writings. And third stanza talks about the decision of the teacher. And this goes on in the fourth stanza as well. See, in this stanza, the teacher, see, I'll not waste my soul and my strength for this. See, the teacher in this line, he decides that he is wasting his strength, he is wasting his physical as well as spiritual strength on something that is not worthwhile. So he decides, he here decides that he'll not waste this strength of his, that is physical strength as well as spiritual strength, on that on something that is not worthwhile. So he doesn't consider his students as worthwhile. That is why he decides this. He also says that he's not going to do this any longer. He no longer cares if they don't learn anything or if their work is incorrect. Here in these lines, what do I care for all that they do amiss? Amiss means wrongly. What is the point of this teaching of mine and this learning of theirs? It all goes down the same abyss. Abyss means it can be anything which is which has no end, which has no bottom, a hole that is a bottomless hole, so that doesn't meet any end. So that is what abyss is. So he says that he's not going to do this any longer. He no longer cares for them. He no longer cares if they learn something, if they do their work. He no longer cares for that, and he feels as if all the teaching and learning is falling down some huge chasm or empty hole which has no end, which has no end. So the poet actually decides, and he tells the readers that he is not ready to take all the pains. He is not ready to sacrifice his strength for his students. So in other ways we can say the teacher is unaware, the teacher is now aware about the indifference of his students, and he doesn't waste his energy, that is physical as well as spiritual energy, trying to impart knowledge to his disinterested students, to his disinterested students. And he does not give a damn if they take or follow a wrong course in their life, if they take or follow a wrong course in their life. He feels and is convinced that all his efforts are going down the bottomless hole, and he had engaged himself in a futile process. So this decision of his, that the process of teaching to these students, these kind of students, it is futile, it is not fruitful, and he decides to step away from that, and to remain there waiting for the bell, and so that this weariness, this tiredness would end. So this is another stanza 5. What does it matter to me if they can write a description of a dog? They can write a description of a dog. Or if they can't, what is the point? To us both, it is all my aunt, and yet I'm supposed to care with all my might. See, in this stanza, we as readers, we as readers, we discover, we discover that Lawrence is teaching creative writing or communicative ideas on paper, and only few learners are interested in this. Only few learners are interested in this. This we as a reader, as readers, we learn this thing, we discover this thing. He says to most of them, most of the students, it is not important if they can write a description of a dog, yet he as the teacher is supposed to care. So this description of dog, this indicates that he was teaching them creative writing and communication ideas. So he tells us that it is not anymore a concern to him, it is not a concern to him anymore. All my aunt, it is all my aunt means it is a nonsense, or it is a wastage of time, it is a waste of time. See, the teacher is not worried here for his students. It does not matter to him if they write or don't write the description of dog. See, what does it matter to me if they can write a description of a dog or if they can't? So it does not matter to him whether they write or whether they don't write the description of a dog. So here description of a dog means composition, like creative writing. Yes, so they have to write something creative, that is a composition type. Yes, when the pupils are, when the students are not interested in acquiring knowledge, there is no point in persuading them or trying to arouse them the curiosity of learning. So he tells us that when the learners maybe yes, when the students are not interested in acquiring knowledge, there is no point in persuading them or trying to arouse in them the curiosity of knowledge. There is no point for that, and that is why the teacher in this poem, he doesn't bother at all, he doesn't bother at all. And although he is expected by the entire society to put in all his efforts here, and yet I am supposed to care, it is the indication that a teacher is always expected to fulfill, to put in all his efforts. But me as a teacher, I as a teacher, I'm not going to do that. This teacher says that I'm not going to do that because I have failed to achieve my goals, I have failed to achieve my goals as a teacher, I have failed to meet my ends as a teacher, and I'm not going to do that what is expected from a teacher. And I'm not going to care about all those students who are not even trying to write something, who are not even interested in my lessons. So that is what he says in this stanza. Last stanza of the poem, that is this: I do not and will not, they won't and they don't, and that's all. I shall keep my strength for myself. They can keep theirs as well. Why should we beat our heads against the wall of each other? I shall sit and wait for the bell. See, now the teacher says that he will not care and he's going to keep all his strength to himself. He is saving his energy, he is saving his strength for himself. He is saving his strength to himself. He knows his learners, his students will not care no matter what he does. He knows in this stanza, he says that he knows his learners will not care about anything, no matter what he does, no matter how much he tries, they'll not care about it. And he also says that he has come to a decision. He and his learners are not going to bash their heads against the walls. So they are not going to beat their heads against the walls. Here he says, why should we beat our heads against the wall? That is attempt to do something that is impossible. Yes, that is when we try to do a task that is impossible. That is what is beat our heads against the wall, beat our heads against the wall. So something doing something repeatedly but unable to change a situation. So he says that he has come to a decision. He and his students are not going to do this impossible task. I'm not going to make them, I'm not going to teach them anymore, because it seems to me that it is an impossible task. It is bashing our heads against the walls. So that is why he's there waiting for the bell to ring, and he has decided to sit and wait for bell. See, if we try to explain this stanza, see, this stanza talks about the helplessness and disgust of the teacher. The helplessness and disgust of a teacher. See, out of helplessness and disgust, the teacher says that he does not bother whether his students learn or not, because he is aware that no an amount of energy, effort on his part would inspire them to hunt for knowledge. So he is known now. He has discovered that whatever he does, how much amount of energy he consumes to make them learn, but they will not do so. They will not do that. They will not be made to hunt knowledge. They will not be inspired. He cannot inspire them to hunt the knowledge, because the students themselves do not possess any inclination towards their studies. There is no spark in them which can tell this teacher, oh yes, I have to try and they will learn. I have to do this. I have to adopt this method. But he knows, he discovers that there is not a spark of that thing, and that is how he tells us that they don't possess any inclination towards their studies. And the teacher is convinced here. The teacher here, he is convinced that he and his students have failed to communicate. So there is no communication. They don't tell the teacher what is their problem, what do they want, and the teacher is unable to find their problems. The teacher is unable to persuade them. He is unable to make them to pull them on the road of knowledge. So all these things, he tells us that because of all these things, he tells us that he's convinced that there is a failure of communication between the teacher and the students, and he does not want to waste his energy and is least bothered whether his students utilize their energy in the pursuit of knowledge or would direct the same to some other purpose, to some other course, to some other goal. So here, I do not and will not. So he denies doing his job. I do not and will not. And they won't and they don't. Neither they do nor they will. Nor they will, because there is nothing left in them that will make me understand that they are going to learn something. And that is all. I shall keep my strength for myself, and they can keep theirs as well. They can keep theirs as well. So here he tells that it is they are, he tells that he's not going to waste his energy. He's not going to waste his energy, and his students can also utilize their energy in any process, in any go in getting any target, or in pursuing knowledge. They can even use their energy for the pursuit of knowledge. They can even use their energy to do another thing, to do another course that is up to them, that is in their hands. So I'll not try my best, I'll not try even more for them, because their energy is theirs and my energy is mine. So I'll save mine and they have to save theirs. So I'll not intervene in their this path. Now they have their own path, and they should pursue their own things. And he also says that there is no fun or use in attempting something that is clearly impossible. And he says that there is nothing which he can get by doing this process of teaching. So he tells the reader that it is of no use in persuading the students to acquire and pursue knowledge, because this is something which is against their own wishes. They don't wish to learn something, they don't wish to acquire something. That is why the teacher fails, the teacher loses the interest also. And he says, why should we beat our heads against the wall of each other? I shall sit and wait for the bell, just like the students who are sitting in the class doing nothing, and they are waiting for the bell. Therefore, to end this monotony which is caused by his noisy students, by his this by these immoral students, he therefore decides to sit and wait for the last bell to go. So just like them, who are boring, who are doing all the nonsense things in the class, who are not least interested in teaching learning process, so just like the students, he is also in such a mood that he wants to leave the class. He is waiting for the final bell so that he can go out of the class. So that is it. That was the poem, which is last lesson of the afternoon, which talks about the student and a teacher a relationship, the process of teaching learning it talks about, and other things related to it. So with this I conclude this lecture, I conclude this today's lecture, and with God's grace, inshallah, I'll come with another lecture in the next class that will be based upon certain issues of the poem. We'll discuss certain issues of this poem in that lecture. So till then, have a nice day, and Allah Hafiz.